Welcome to Upwell, the podcast. I'm Sarah, and this is my beautiful co-host, Katie. As fellow female entrepreneurs turned friends and now business partners, we are so happy you're here.
With every episode, it is our sole purpose to share authentic conversations to inspire your personal level up. Take our curiosity, add your best intentions, and flow with us in the Upwell.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Upwell, the podcast. I'm Sarah, this is Katie, and we are so happy you joined us.
Welcome, everyone.
We are full swing September, baby.
Yes, back in the studio. It's been a couple weeks since we've been here, so we are super excited to have you all back with us, as well as we've got another fun guest with us today. He is a exercise science trained person. Personal trainer. He is a certified hypnotist and energy healer. He is a personal trainer at Mantino, the fitness premier in Mantino. He is a newlywed. And he is a fur baby daddy. So, without further ado, we have Brandon Ringler with us today.
Hello.
So excited. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Tell us just a little bit more about you, who you are, in case anybody watching doesn't know who you are. Hopefully you've got some friends and family that already do know who you are and where you come from and all the story behind Brandon. But fill us in a little bit more.
Yeah, like you said, recently married, my wife Jen.
Hi Jenny.
Hi Jen. Shout out to Jenny.
And the fur babies.
Yeah, Odin, Penelope, Jack, Edgar.
I love those names.
Because they're watching, you know they are.
They're gonna watch this later. So
They should.
I'm a personal trainer. I do work at Fitness Premier Mantino. Been training on and off and coaching for 13 years now. And then I've also been doing hypnotherapy, hypnosis, energy healing since about 2013 as well. And any questions specifically?
But one thing that we are really excited to talk to Brandon about today is actually his knowledge of breathwork. Breathwork is something that he incorporates with everything that he does with his clients, with himself, with his friends, family, everybody. So really kind of digging deep into your knowledge with that. So you've been doing breathwork for quite some time.
Yeah.
Now, right? When did you get started with that?
Started with sports. I've always been an athlete since I was real little.
Mm-hmm.
And in college, I was just trying basically any way you can to get an edge, because at the college level, like, it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything's faster, everybody's stronger, like everybody's at that level. So you're like, any way I can to get an edge, just doing different research. I came across, breath work and different breathing, visualization, stuff like that. It's like, okay, maybe there's something to this. Turns out there was, right? And I started utilizing it, both for like stress management and like kind of mindset going into like competition, not letting the nerves get the best of you, stuff like that, as well as just like stress reduction, relaxation, especially at the time, like in college. Sports was not necessarily the stressor, but like it kind of contributed everything all at once. It's easy to get overwhelmed, and so having a practice like breath work was a way for me to kind of balance that out and kind of
college
reduce
as a
that.
whole is just super stressful.
Yeah.
It's such, you're being thrown into a life of everything you haven't known. You've lived like most people have lived, a certain way up to that point, and then at 18 you're just like, here you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lion's Den.
Figure it out.
And it's almost this like unconscious mindset of, if I screw this up, everything's ruined. Right? Your whole life depends on getting this right.
Right.
I think a lot of people live in that mindset every day.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people's anxiety and fear and just worry and stress it's self-created.
Yeah.
And that's another reason I was so excited to talk to you, because I feel like breath work to me, from what you've explained and shown me over the years, is just a way to get out of your mind and back in your body.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Right. I think broken down best is just literally just using your breath to influence your state that you're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think your breath is one of the quickest avenues for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you start focusing more on your in-breath than your out-breath, your energy level is going to rise. And if you focus on the out-breath more than the in-breath, now it's going to come back down, right? Just something quick and simple as that can have an immediate effect on you physiologically and mentally as well. So
That's awesome. So what's the difference, like if people are listening or watching and have never heard of breath work per se, what is different from just breathing, you know, that your body does automatically, and then pinpointed utilizing your breath in a breathwork practice?
right, intention, and in a sense like structure as well, because you essentially could just breathe intentionally and have a good positive outcome from just literally watching your breath. A lot of meditations are focused on following your breath, right? It's one of the very few things you do both consciously and subconsciously. Like, do you
It's a
breathe,
voluntary and an
or
involuntary
does
thing.
breathing happen to you?
Yeah.
Both,
Both,
right? Yeah. So just by shifting your attention and awareness to it, it's already going to have a positive effect on you, right? And then now if you can bring some structures that people have been using now for thousands of years that have been proven effective, like, it's the groundwork kind of there. It's just up to us to
For
like
sure.
search it out and find it and
find
try
it.
it for yourself, and find what works for you, what you respond well to, and that may be different for different people.
Right.
Why do you feel like people get so disconnected from their breath? Like, I feel like you said, it's voluntary and involuntary. It's one of the very few things that we have control and don't have control over at the same time. But why do you feel like people don't pay attention to it? And not necessarily in a sense of they don't know how powerful it is, but it's like nobody really thinks about it. It's kind of like down on the totem pole of things that we consciously think about, because we're like, oh, we don't have to worry about it. Our body's just going to do it. But, you know, why do you think that is, that people really don't pay attention to their breath?
I think it's just a lot of distraction and lack of awareness just through the day. I think it's very easy now more than ever to not be present. There's way too many ways you can distract yourself and
It's such
stay
a
there.
reoccurring theme with this
Stay there
show.
forever.
I know.
It's everywhere though.
It is,
you
oh,
know?
absolutely.
And not to say that it wasn't like that before, but now we can also see, you know, we're so connected. We see this is happening everywhere, right? And it's easier than ever, you know, endless information at your fingertips. Like, you stay lost there forever.
Yeah.
Right?
I really do think, though, that it is, a lot of it does probably have to do with the fact that it is something that just happens, so we feel like we don't need to be in control of it.
For
It's
sure.
like just something that, we do it, so
I don't
I
have
don't have to think about it. And there becomes that disconnect, especially in Western culture, because it's not something that we are taught to think about or look into as growing up, you know, whereas in Eastern cultures that it's a much more prevalent thing.
That's so funny, because that really is segueing kind of what I wanted to ask you about was, you know, the difference between cultures, how there's some, you know, sometimes in Eastern, you know, whether that's Chinese, ancient culture, anything, but they teach that, you know, to the next generation. They incorporate it into their school systems. And, you know, what do you think, what implications could that have, positive, if we did that in America or did that in Western society?
I think you hit a big part right on the head. Is like, you can't know what you don't know, right? And how many people have just never had anybody tell them, you can breathe like this and you'll feel better.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not even a thought that occurs to them because no one's ever told them. To where, you know, the other cultures, it's since they were little, they've been breathing, or they, you know, learn to meditate or something just to help control the reactions, whatever it is. If you don't know, if no one's ever told you, how are you gonna, you know,
Yep.
do that?
And now you know.
And
I
now you
know.
know.
No excuses.
It's interesting that you say that, because I have a lot of clients when I'm a daily meditator. You're a daily meditator.
I try.
Okay.
I'm a daily walk-in naturer with no phone, so I
Okay.
do that. That's my
Okay.
meditation.
But I feel like when I talk to my clients about and like try to tell them about like meditating, how many clients tell me, I can't do that. I
Right.
can't do that. And so one thing that I've actually learned, or kind of, I'm meeting them where they're at.
Yeah.
I guess a little bit more. And so I'm talking to them more about breath work instead of the intimidating word of meditation. They're like, I can't just sit there and think of nothing. And I'm
Can't
like,
turn my brain off.
I can't turn my brain
everybody.
off. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't just sit there and not think of anything, you know. And I have to remind myself, okay, they don't know, you know, they've never been taught, they don't understand it, and so I actually have started to incorporate, you know, telling them about breath work. So where are good places for people to start if it's something that they've never done, where can they start to kind of start to incorporate that practice into their life?
Honestly, the easiest, best way to start, I think, is setting a timer for 5 minutes and just watch your breath, follow it in, follow it out.
Mhm.
Even like visualizing, maybe if you're like, imagine you're breathing in a mist, right? Pick a color or something and just follow that.
Mhm.
And anytime you get distracted, just gently bring yourself back, not judging yourself. Like, you're gonna get distracted, right?
For sure.
You're
It's-
going to get distracted.
And it's just like physical exercise. Like, building your focus is a skill,
Mhm.
just like, you know, lifting a weight, doing, like, someone's like, well, I can't do 100 push-ups. Like, no, not right now. But if you keep practicing and keep doing, you know, 1 push-up a day,
Mhm.
keep adding that, you're going to get there.
Right.
Right. And meditation's the same thing. Breath work is the same thing. It's, you have to just keep doing it, reinforcing it, and doing those reps to get there. So just starting with building up that focus a little bit,
Mhm.
that I think is kind of a really important part of that framework, is having the ability to focus and build,
Right.
because it's a skill. You know, we're told when we're little kids, "What would you just focus?" It's like, can you just play the piano? It's like, I've never learned. No, I actually, you know.
That's such
Right.
a good point,
That
though,
is such
and
a
I
good
love that you bring the intentionality back, or I guess the thought of it being a practice and it being something that you have to learn and not just automatically do. And I think going back to meditation too, it's not something that you're just going to be automatically good at. You have to work at it. It's a skill.
Mhm.
And I think too, even with meditation, or when you've worked with me with breath work over the years,
Mhm.
I think the more in your body and in the moment that you can be, anytime obviously, but during these practices, the more successful you're going to feel. So even, you know, you talking about setting a timer and using different things to kind of help you stay focused, if you can, you know, put your hands on your belly, put your hands on your ribs, like if you can bring the more senses you can bring into the equation, I feel like the more successful you feel at the end of it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
One thing I have actually learned with meditation, I found very early on that when I meditate, I do have a hard time focusing on my breath, because I ultimately start to force the breath, and it becomes like I
Manual
can't just
breathing.
manual breathing,
Yeah.
and I can't. I mean, I've been a daily meditator now for 5.5 years,
Yeah.
and I still to this day struggle with it. So what I found to do instead is I focus on my heartbeat. And so I switched what it was, and then it allowed me though then to really, when I focused just on that feeling inside of me, my breath actually became fuller.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Did you feel like your breathing almost like matched your rhythm? With
Yes,
your
of
heart
my
rate then, too?
heart rate.
Yeah.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
that's something I've actually started to tell some of my clients as well, because they're like, I just sit there and think about breathing, and I'm like, no, I want you to do this instead. I want you to feel your heartbeat, feel it in your chest, feel it in your throat, feel it in your hands, your feet, your ears, your temples, because you can really, if you focus in on a certain part of your body, you can really start to feel your heartbeat.
Yeah.
It's a amazing sensation. It's like almost like euphoric to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It's
I need to
think
meditate with
it's-
these two.
honestly, right. What are you waiting for?
I'm coming over.
I think it's fascinating. There's so much more going on that, like, we have the ability to perceive, but we just don't take the time to actually step back and perceive it, because there's so much going on externally that if you just turn the spotlight inwards a little bit, and like, you only have to do it for a few minutes a day. Like,
Right.
I mean, you could, in a pinch, 5 minutes
Right,
a day,
yeah.
and you're going to feel better. If you can, you know, 20, 30, 60 minutes if you can. Like, you see the people that meditate for like an hour or 2 hours, most of the times it's not like, they're not like punishing themselves doing this.
No.
Like, they have to, they're blissed out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're like,
Mhm.
loving it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it feels wonderful,
Right.
right? And you're just really getting back in touch with your body, your mind, and you feel like it's almost like a sense of like cohesion with just like body, mind, spirit, when you really take the time and sit there past when your rational thinking mind is going to try and tell you to do anything else other than what you're doing.
Mhm.
Once you can get past that, right, it's almost like, you know, a runner's high, you know, catching that second wind. It's awful, and then all of a sudden, hey, this isn't so bad anymore.
Yeah.
I think I can keep going a little longer.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with the meditations. And, you know, the breath work specifically, I think, is just, it's a really good anchor to that. So staying, you know, anchored firmly with that breath work, again, it's that bridge between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. It's happening consciously and subconsciously. And I think with that, especially if you keep going longer and longer in those meditations, you start realizing, having more and more realizations during it. Your higher self, if you will, speaks in very quiet messages generally, and if you're not listening, you're not going to hear it, or maybe interpret it the way it's supposed to be interpreted.
Right.
But it just takes time and quiet and just building up that focus, I think, too. And I think that the breath work is a really good kind of avenue to that.
Agreed.
So we talked now about kind of the spiritual side of it. What are some of the physical benefits of breath work? Like and I feel like physical benefits are the tangible kind of takeaways that people love to hear,
right?
Because that's
immediate.
It's the immediate, and it's something that they can, like when we talk about higher self,
it's measurable.
Like, it's measurable. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. Whereas
Absolutely.
when we talk about higher self and stuff like that, that kind of gets into a realm where some people might get a little uncomfortable to talk about those things. But like from the physical standpoint, what are some of the benefits that come with practicing breath work on a daily basis?
Yeah. So we know that when your body's in fight or flight and you got cortisol run through your body constantly, it's not good for you long term, right? It has a purpose, right? But the purpose is not to stay in it constantly. But a lot of people, unfortunately, especially now, are in that state a large amount of the time, if not all the time sometimes.
Right, that sympathetic system.
Yeah. So basically engaging now that parasympathetic system and that rest, relax, digest, like just getting yourself into that alone, like is going to be an immediate reaction, right? And so I think it was Andrew Huberman or something that just talked about it, but doing like a deep double inhale with an audible sigh. If you've ever practiced that, it's extremely quick. You just go fill your lungs with air, then force a little more, and then let out.
Oh, that felt good.
It
I do
literally.
I do that at the end of the day, but it's just because I haven't taken a deep breath all day, and the day is
Yeah, but it is, and it's exactly that feeling, kind of just
like
and you
release, instant release. Yeah,
it is. It gets you
it
out of
almost
that.
gives you a tingly feeling through your body.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just had it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Full.
I'm sure everyone listening to this will love that.
It feels great.
It
Please
does
take,
feel great. You
Take
should
4
try
seconds.
Do it right now.
Yeah.
Take 4 seconds and do it. It's amazing.
And I think it's just a great example too of how immediate and powerful your breath is, right? And in an exercise setting, breathing's huge, right? Doing cardio, talking about training for marathons, right? How big is your breathing rhythm when you're running? Right?
Honestly, it's more important than my muscles, my body's strength at that point. It really is.
Absolutely. And you have to keep yourself in that rhythm. You probably, I would argue, focus almost on your breathing rhythm at a certain point more than anything else.
Because if it starts to accelerate, that makes my heart rate go faster, and then I just, you just don't feel good. You feel panicked. That's just like what anxiety feels like. Your breath and your heart rate get more shallow and faster, and then you don't feel good. And running like that doesn't feel good either.
And then even if, flip side of things, say like you're a power lifter, right? And you're lifting something extremely heavy. Now you need to use your breath now to brace your core. Now you're talking about like breathing deep, like into your belly, expanding your ribs, bracing your core so that you keep your spine safe, healthy, and strong. Like you can pressure, it's called like an intra-abdominal pressure that you're creating, right? To keep your spine protected, safe, and injury-free.
Amazing.
And it's coming from your breath. Basically turning your body into like a weight belt, right?
Yeah.
Within reason, people. Like,
I'm lifting a car.
If you get a hernia, it's not my fault.
Full medical disclaimer. Don't worry. You're covered.
So parasympathetic system into the or sympathetic system down into the parasympathetic system, because on a daily basis it should be like this, that we go in and out of both of those, and a lot of people are kind of like sympathetic, and then they're just sympathetic
pedal to the floor,
and then they might
all gas, no
crash, and it becomes where that becomes the depressive state, because if you go down into it too quickly. So there's that anxiety depression loop that can happen with all of that. Aside from that kind of balancing that rhythm, what other things physically does breath work help with?
So it's also true, like the inverse too. If you're trying to hype yourself up too,
Oh, okay.
and you need more energy, you feel like I'm just so sluggish, so slow. Like if you just go
Breath of fire.
do like, yeah, literally do 20 of those. Tell me you're not more awake than
Yeah.
before. And it's a matter of seconds, but it's just intention and breathing, and it affects your body physically, right? So it's your breath follows your body, and your body follows your breath, and it has that, it's kind of weird relationship. So like, you know, when you're tired and relaxed, your breathing's slow, controlled. But if I start sprinting, you know, it's going to start going fast. But then I could get the inverse too. So if I want my body to slow down, I'm going to start breathing more slow and influencing that way. That's why, you know, if you're running, people tell you, like, if you're trying to relax, get your heart rate back down, they're like, you know, slow down your breathing, deep, slow breaths. Yep. Because you're getting your breath to now influence your body. A lot of people do that without thinking about it all the time. It's just a lot more powerful when you're intentionally doing it, you know, for a reason, for a purpose.
Yeah.
I actually heard ages ago, I don't know if it's considered a fable or an old wives' tale or something, but the idea of counting sheep was actually so that you would slow down your breath to fall asleep. So when, you know, like, I mean, we've all heard the phrase "go count sheep" to you know, to fall asleep, but it was actually just in correlation to get you to almost like inhale, like an exhale with the count of the sheep.
It's like an imagination version of like those breathing bubbles in a way.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So I know for me personally, when I am on the struggle bus with, you know, my mind just, you know, going crazy, I literally will just do, you know, that breath work, and 9 times out of 10 I can put myself to sleep within a matter of minutes to just to, you know, like, and it is a manual breath that I'm doing. I'm like literally in and out, but it's slow and rhythmic, and you can put yourself to sleep doing that.
I've learned 2 important things today: that I can fall asleep faster with deep breaths, and I can skip the Starbucks drive-through with quick breaths.
Yeah.
I'll have a little more energy and be a little less wired at night.
There we go.
It'll feel good. It'll feel good.
A couple of other things that I know personally about breath work too is that when we consciously focus on doing the full breath in and the full breath out, we're oxygenating our whole body.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. You know, if you got any tidbits on the positive effects of the oxygenation. Is that the one?
Yep, you got it. You got it.
But deep of the body, and how that helps us kind of wellness as a whole.
Yeah. I noticed this, I think, the most when I do Wim Hof method breathing, right? So what it basically is kind of like a hyperventilation of sorts for about 30 breaths. Then you exhale, and then you hold your breath. And it's a retention for as long as you can, and you take a breath and hold that. But what you do is you're super like oxygenating your body, and you physically feel the positive benefits.
So cool. It's so
right
cool.
away.
Yeah.
Right? And not only
I
that.
have done that. You feel like you're supercharged.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right. He calls it high on your own supply.
It
right?
literally
It's like a whole body
it is.
orgasm.
It
I'm
is.
going to say it. It really
It's
is.
fantastic. Yeah. It's
It
the reason
is.
I do it every day.
I agree.
Right?
It is. Yeah.
Really, it is. Yeah.
But in addition to that, like, because if you put on like the oxygen finger things,
Like a pulse ox?
Pulse ox.
Yes, pulse ox. Yes, pulse ox. I'm just gonna say that. Like it's gonna be at like 95, 99, 98, whatever the whole time. Like your oxygen saturation is gonna stay pretty high, but you also you also lower the CO2 levels in your blood, because then that urge to breathe in is coming from that buildup of that CO2. So when you do those breaths, you're basically lowering that CO2 level as well, so you're more charged with that oxygen. And then by the time you get to that retention hold, like you realize like I'm holding my breath way longer than I would have expected. And in my own practice, it was like staggering how quick it affected me physically. I started practicing after I found out about this. Like, I'm gonna try to do a couple times a day. It took my first day, my breath like retentions were about like 45 seconds to a minute, and I was like, that was pretty good. Like with no air in my lungs, that felt like a really long time. Doing it 1 to 2 times a day for 3 days, my breath holds were 3.5 minutes during that retention, And during it too, my entire body is just like blissed out. Like you feel like every cell of your body is just like charged and
literally
awesome.
You feel like, have you done them?
We used to do it together when we worked at
Okay.
the gym together.
Yeah.
And we would do like 3 minutes of Wim Hof breathing and retentions. And I can attest to that. I probably could hold my breath for like 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. It was very, very short amounts. And I would feel that urge that I'm like, I gotta breathe, you know?
Mhm.
And I remember, I think it was 3 or 4 days into doing it, I made it over 2 minutes, and I would have never guessed that I would have had that increase in being able to hold my breath that long. And it's not just about holding your breath for just because.
Right.
You feel so good because you're so like, it must be the oxygen amount and the lowered CO2 amount. I mean, you just it's
there's very few things that I have done that put me more in my body than that practice.
Yes.
Like you are so physically aware of you can feel the, like Wim Hof even says, feel the blood pumping through your veins. Like those are his exact words, but like you can feel like the tingly and just it's amazing. Yeah. The feeling of.
And the research that's coming out paired with it too is absolutely incredible. There's people are basically boosting their immune systems, and so they did a study with him, and they injected him with like dead E. coli cells, right, which would still make you violently sick for like 6 to 8 hours, right? But he had no response, and so like, all right, you're the exception to the rule, whatever. And then he's like, nah. He's like, if you're a human, you can do this. And so he's like, give me 12 people. They gave him like a few days of training these people and like doing the breathing, and they redid the study. Every single one in his group, no response. The control group, everybody's getting sick, right? It's like, and he's finding out that you can consciously influence certain things that we thought were just autonomic, things like your heart rate. So when you're doing your heart rate meditation, right, you can begin to even influence that heart rate, get it nice and slow, get that rhythm that you want, right? And, you know, influence of things like your body temperature, right? He's super famous as like the Iceman because he'll maintain his body temperature sitting on top of ice for hours, which is unheard of, right? But he's rewriting these medical textbooks because the times are kind of catching up to like, what are we really capable of here? Just because it's like one of those, again, you don't know what you don't know. If you've never heard about that or seen it, like how are you supposed to find that out, you know?
And it is really, his practice is an ancient practice because he learned it from tantric monks. When he was in Southeast Asia is where he learned it from, and then he took it to a whole new level.
And just breathe, motherfucker.
Exactly.
That's his motto. Wim Hof's motto.
It's that simple.
Yeah, it really is that simple. Awesome.
And then, you know, pairing that with the cold exposure, which I highly recommend too.
We have a whole episode about that.
We have a whole episode on hot and cold therapies.
It's so good. But again, it gets you right into your body immediately, right? And I think it's interesting, that theme there, that the more time you're spending there, getting back into your body, there's a lot of positive benefit to that. A lot of healing, and, you know,
a lot of, you're able to let go of a lot of things that you're hanging on to. You're able to process trauma. You're able to rationally kind of navigate life. You're able to, I think, in a sense, just have so much more awareness of the world around you, which I think is something that is lacking.
Clarity is the word that always comes to me, like with breath work. When I'm faithful in practicing it, is I do feel more clear, you know, whether that's about decisions I need to make or just what I need to do that day. I mean, sometimes it's small things, but it definitely, it puts life in perspective, I feel like, and you just feel a little bit more in control, if that's a good way to put it.
I feel like it's more like, yes, all of that, but it's like you're able to just live. Like you don't feel like you're floating or you're coasting. You're able to like feel it and live it. You know, you're able to kind of be the essence of being.
Brandon is the epitome of essence of being.
Yes, Brandon is he totally is the essence.
For real.
Yes. It's one of the things we love about him. So,
well, thank you for sharing all of the physical, mental, and spiritual kind of benefits and, you know, ideas behind breath work and how it can impact our lives in a positive way. Can you teach us and our audience a simple breathwork technique? One maybe that is for people that struggle with anxiety or just feeling overwhelmed or stressed out, so it's something that they could incorporate really easily. You know, if you're sitting at your desk or trying to fall asleep at night, what's something that we can do with our breath to support that?
I'm glad you asked. This I've done with clients, and they've done, with their families. And one instance really kind of stands out was someone's like their daughter was in middle school dealing with anxiety. It's a heck of a time for anxiety, right, in middle school. And so she did this breathing practice with her and said it was gone instantly. Like as soon as they started doing it, and it's that same Wim Hof breathing method, right? So we'll do like a quick little kind of condensed version. We're gonna do 20 breaths and a breath hold, and then you're gonna breathe in and hold that, right? So the breaths you can do either through your nose or through your mouth. Neither one's wrong. Like I usually breathe mostly through my nose, but when I do these, sometimes I'll breathe through my mouth because it's a more immediate and powerful effect. So especially if you're doing less quantity, I'll breathe through my mouth just to get more air. So it's a full breath in, sit nice and tall, and then let go. Halfway there. Lightheadedness is kind of normal. Tingly is normal. One more. Exhale and hold. Now while you're holding your breath, I want you to close your eyes and just scan your body from head to toe, feeling every cell in your body. From your forehead, cheeks, relax your jaw, neck and shoulders, down your spine, through your chest and belly, your arms, hips, legs, all the way down to your feet. And if you got the time, go right back up. Once you feel the urge to breathe in again, you're going to take a deep breath in and hold that for about 10 seconds. Feels good, right?
Are we
My
still
voice
recording a
literally.
podcast?
Right.
Are we still recording a podcast? Are you still here?
Literally, my hands are tingling.
Me too. That felt so good.
I usually do them laying down
Yeah.
when I do them, so I did have a harder time feeling it into my legs. I think
Yeah.
because being in a seated position, but literally from my hips up, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My voice will literally change sometimes when I do it. It'll get deeper because I'm, again, like when you're more relaxed, your vocal cords relax and your voice will sound deeper.
Yeah.
Like it almost trips me out sometimes. Like, whoa, didn't expect it.
Who's
Like,
talking?
it's still my voice.
Oh, that was awesome. That
Yes.
was so good. And I love
That's
that you were like this, just 20 breaths, exhale, hold, inhale, hold for a few seconds and just let it go. And it has such a powerful impact in what that probably took us under 2 minutes, So it's something that is so easy to add into your life, it's not anything that's crazy, like,
Do it anywhere. Just don't do it
60
while you're
minutes
driving.
of meditation. Yeah, don't do it while you're driving or
Or in
operating
water.
a
Right.
vehicle, but when you're safe and in a comfortable place where you have the ability to do it, which is just about anywhere other than your car, I think.
Or water.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or while you're swimming, yeah. Don't do that.
The most powerful times I found that when I'm doing it are first thing in the morning. There is not many better ways to start a day, I've found. And then again, right before I go to sleep at night too. I'll generally, a lot of times I'll feel like I have a lot of energy. So sometimes I'll do less of the Wim Hof at night and do more of like a slow, deeper breathing in the evening. But
yeah, I like 4, 7, 8 at night. That will help. That really helps kind of settle my nervous system down, relax my muscles on a physical level. And again, it's probably like counting sheep. You have to count the in-breath, count the hold, count the exhale. So it really does just kind of bring that control back to your breath. So.
yeah.
And it's also best not to do the breath work practice that we just did if you have just eaten. That can also kind of, it can make you feel a little nauseous. It can make you feel a little funky.
That makes sense.
If you've just eaten a meal, so kind of hold off for a little bit. That's the only other tip that I would. Yeah, pre-meal, definitely pre-meal. So first thing in the morning is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome.
This was probably one of my favorite episodes. Not just because I love Brandon very much. He's just so knowledgeable, and I feel like all of the things we talked about are so useful for people right now with everything that's happening in the world and in our personal lives. Like, I just feel like this is something that people are going to take something away that they can use right away.
Absolutely. Tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah. Brandon Ringler, Facebook and Instagram. I think my Instagram is bringsfitness.
Okay.
I think, right?
He thinks he's
He's
not
very active.
he's not a big social media guy.
Yeah,
but
you can reach out to me there and I'll give you a message. But I'm more of a like face-to-face, ideally.
Love it.
Yeah. So.
And then you're at Fitness
And
Premier.
Fitness Premier Mantino, yeah. I do personal training. I do nutrition coaching. All kinds of stuff.
And breathwork.
Teach
And breathwork.
classes. I do breath work.
And then
Hypnosis,
I was gonna say the
hypnotherapy,
hypnosis
so
and the energy healing. You know,
as
they
well.
can reach out to you personally for that as well too.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
We will link all of Brandon's information like usual in our show notes, so you can feel free to contact him or follow him, hopefully for some more great information on everything we talked about.
More stuff. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on another episode of Uphold the Podcast. You can find the show at Uphold the Podcast on all the places. If you like this episode, be sure to share it, comment, like it. What's the other one?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Yes, thank
Wherever
you.
you're
Follow
listening.
along wherever you're listening. So you can find myself personally at barefoot.katie. You can find Sarah at Sarah Barons. So until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and take care of the world around you. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you.